So there was a preliminary research part of a study that was attempting to get done at Brown University that was looking into what they called were hypothesizing, not theorizing or whatever, but basically asking, is there such a thing as rapid onset gender dysphoria, which was basically saying, a fancy way of saying, are a lot of the people we're saying who are claiming to be trans, are they doing it because of peer pressure and ideological possession? They didn't use those words, I do. They were saying they were looking into like influences of Tumblr and super far leftist propaganda when it comes to the 72 genders thing, because, or 42 genders thing, however many it is now. And they were questioning, even when it came to people who were seeking sexual reassignment surgery, how many of them had an irreversible, like gender dysphoria is like considered downright irreversible. And the reason why we have sexual reassignment therapy, like hormone therapy and sexual reassignment surgery is a treatment to a mental illness. And, I've previously reported that they basically are trying to get, transgender whatever completely removed from the DSM manuals, mental illness and mental disorders, because they're so afraid that to call something a mental illness means it's not real, which is ridiculous. I mean, these people are not interested in science or reality at all. They're interested in ideological bullshit, politics, their religion of progressivism. So they're afraid that delegitimizes and hurts people just by trying to understand what's going on, as if, and I mean, like the researchers were not conservatives, you know what I mean? But they don't care. They shut that shit down. There was a huge backlash at the university over this shit because liberalism is now a mental disorder, and progressivism is a mental disorder. But you know how the fucking the meme goes. And I gotta say that, man, at this point, it is almost impossible to actually ascertain the truth because progressivism poisons everything. And the best way to make you understand that is, have you ever heard of quantum woo? That there are people like Deepak Chopra and people who believe in The Secret. They believe that just by thinking about reality really hard, you can change reality. You can change your fate just by thinking about it. And they say the reason why is because they said just the act of observing an electron changes where the electron is. And the act of observation changes reality. This, at the quantum level, this is not true. The reason why they're saying that thing, particularly about the electron, is because if you try to figure out where an electron is, you usually have to interact with it. And it's so fucking small that if you turn the lights on in a room, you are bombarding the room with photons, which are objects of a size not, sort of in the same class as an electron. And an electron is hit by a photon, it moves. If you use some kind of electromagnetic detection thing, that thing is using electromagnetic, waves or fields, and it's interacting with the electron and moving it. So you cannot say where it is. You can only say that with some probability it's here and not there. And then there's a lesser probability that it's there and not here. And so you can't say. So I gotta say, it's really hard to ask, are you really trans or are you faking it for attention? Like people who have Munchausen's, I've mentioned these kind of trans trenders before, but also, are you a kind of person where it's like, you've heard tons of stories where it's like teachers saying like, oh, your kid's drawing himself in a dress. We're worried that he might be transgendered. We want you to go see a transgender specialist therapist about it. And it's just like, maybe the kid just thinks dresses are cool. And there's so many people that are adults that want to wear dresses and lipstick and women's wigs and shit. And we call these people transvestites, and if they're gay, we call them drag queens. And they are cisgendered people, to use progressive terminology. They're not trans just because they want to dress in the opposite sex's clothes. It's a different kind of compulsion, whether or not you want to call it a mental disorder. Maybe technically it is. It just doesn't harm them. It's not. It's a benign mental disorder. It's abnormal, but it's not necessarily a disorder because they're, I guess, the way we kind of judge that is, can you function in society like a normal person? And yeah, a transvestite can go to work in a suit and do the transvestite shit in his own time, so we don't think he's dysfunctional. And not that dysfunctional necessarily means you're bad or you're evil or you're going to be abused, or if anybody, or need to be abused or any of this shit. Mental illness doesn't automatically mean, oh, it's all in your head. Well, the thing is, yeah, gender dysphoria is all in your head, but it's all in your head like permanent schizophrenia is all in your head, which is to say it's a permanent and debilitating mental disorder, and the way you treat the medical condition of gender dysphoria, which shouldn't even be called that because gender doesn't even exist. That's another video that I've done, and is something you should look into. Gender is quack science. So what gender dysphoria is the incorrigible belief, the delusion that you are the opposite sex. And so transgender is sort of an incorrect use of terminology. Real transgender people are transsexual. They're male to female or female to male. And that's the difference. But we have all these people like non-binaries who are poisoning the terminology to say like, oh, if you say, sometimes I feel like a woman and sometimes I feel like a man, you're trans. No, you're not. But if I say no, you're not, they call me what the term true scum. Because I believe the only true transsexuals are people who are actually fucking transsexual. And not people playing make-believe. People who are fucking infantilized and won't grow up, who say, I never got tired of pretending to be a wolf in fucking elementary school at recess. I'm actually a wolf. Like my spirit is a wolf, or my mind is a wolf. Even if I have a human body, I'm an otherkin. No. You're just a person who won't stop playing make-believe. And it's a comforting thing. It's an identity disorder. And that's another reason why I don't like gender identity disorder as a term, because that's also not really what's going on. Being an actual transsexual person is a much more serious thing. Much more serious. Much more permanent. And a lot of people I know, and I've been on Discords, where the majority of the participants are medically reassigned transsexual people who, not all of them, but I would say a small majority of them are anti-progressive because they agree with everything I've just said in this video. And if you ask these people, if you could not be trans, would you want to not be trans? And they say, yeah, this is not fun. This is not a game. My fucking severe mental, whether you want to call it a mental illness or a developmental disorder, whatever the fucking fancy term you want to use, is that like my pain, this thing sucks to deal with. And it's offensive that people play pretend and use it to mollify each other and to, build their little social circle. Like my mental illness is not your social plaything. And they're disgusted. And, I don't imagine sexual reassignment surgery is fun. I don't imagine, having to constantly feel different and like there's something wrong with you is fun. And the thing is, you can be completely functional in society and have friends and all this shit, and you can live now as a transsexual person without it fucking up your outer life, which is a great thing that is like legitimately progressive. But inside, you have an illness that sucks, and there is a reason why, even now today, with all this stuff changing, the suicide rate, the rates of severe depression and social disorders that are completely, apart from being transsexual, are a lot of them have these, painful things to deal with because it's not fun. It's not make believe. It's a real permanent disorder. And you can't ask these questions and you can't discuss these things because there are people who will want to fucking kill you, want to hurt you, want to take away your job, want to fucking fire you, to destroy you, to fucking remove you from all forms of communication, cancel your book, cancel your study, kick you off Facebook, kick you off of social media, kick you off of Twitter, kick you off of YouTube, say you're committing hate speech, say you're a fucking Nazi, if you so much as try to suss out exactly where the line is. What is a real transsexual person and what is somebody who's being subjected to peer pressure? You can convince somebody of a lot of things with indoctrination. You can convince people that the world is fucking flat with a few YouTube videos. This is a serious question that you're not allowed to ask.